Hello and welcome back to the Fast and the Curious with me, Betty Glover, fresh from the Olympics, probably 2 stone heavier because all I ate was pain au chocolats every morning. So, hello.
Hello, welcome back, Betty. Hello, I'm Christian Hugill, back from holiday, toned, tanned, fit and ready.
And here I am, team principal Greg James, trying desperately to keep this podcast going without my actual presenters. But
Hang on, I have one
You
holiday.
did a good job. You did a good job.
Lovely to have you both back. We had such a nice chat with Karun Chandok last week. It was a mid-season review. If you missed that, then you should listen to it because he's not only a great man, he's also a funny man and an insightful man. I loved catching up with him. Some great stories from that episode, worth listening and watching if you'd like to on YouTube. Joining us today is someone who also loves Karun Chandok, and anyone who loves Karun is a friend of ours. Welcome to the show, a face and a name that will be familiar to Formula One fans in the UK, and also just sort of a British TV institution, really. Please welcome to the Fast and the Curious, Steve Jones.
Hello, Steve.
What can a lowly Formula One presenter do for you today?
Well, I'd actually like to start off by saying welcome and hello. And what have you been doing in your summer break? Are you allowed to work? Because none of the people who work in F1 are allowed to, but are you allowed to? I guess this is work, isn't it? So are you here illegally?
Talking to you three lovely guys. No, this is not work. In the summer break, try my best not to think about Formula One. So maybe in that sense, this is a little bit like work talk because I'm about to talk about Formula One. Because when you're in it for as long as I am, weeks after weeks after weeks, it's nice to, to not think about those drivers, those cars, those races, those locations. But again, I'm very happy to be here with you. So go for it. Ask me whatever you like.
Steve, you started presenting Channel 4's coverage in, what was it, like 2016, didn't you? 2016. Yeah, how did you get into it? What was the thing that made you want to start presenting in Formula One?
I was asked.
Good.
It's a solid start, isn't it? It really is.
Yeah, I was coming from a night out somewhere or another with my wife back to the flat. I remember I was about to put my key in the front door and my phone went and I looked down and it was Jay Hunt, who was the head of Channel 4 at the time. I thought, whoop, I got to answer that. So I said, hello, Jay. And she said, a quick question. Do you love Formula One? Tell me yes. And I was like, yeah, love Formula One. I'm obsessed with it. And she was like, great, that's all I needed to know. I'll speak soon. And the phone went dead. And my wife was like, what was that about? I was like, was Jay Hunt asking, do I like Formula One? She's like, I never heard you talk about Formula One ever in all the years I've known you, Steve. I'm like, yeah, that's what you're doing, TV. You like me. Because I didn't know much about Formula One. I didn't know anything about it. So I just said, yeah, I love it. And next thing I know, I'm in her office. She was saying she thinks I could be good at presenting Formula One in the way that I would normally host a TV show, as in like T4 or whatever. She wanted me to be more entertainment driven rather than, a proper straight down the line sporting presenter. And I went for it, fell in love with it. And here I am 9 years later.
Formula One does that to you, doesn't it? Like, because I was sort of like a loose fan, sort of watched it a little bit, but wasn't sort of head in like Christian's been since he was younger. But oh my God, it drags you in, doesn't it? And then you are obsessed with it very, very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, admittedly, it was a bit of a gamble. I didn't know I was going to fall in love with it. How could I? I respect sports immensely and sports people. I like to think I'm a little bit sporty. And then I found myself at testing in Barcelona back in 2016. And as soon as I saw those cars on track, boom, that was it. I thought, yeah, this is going to work. This is extraordinary. I need to learn everything I can about the sport. And, I want to become a good presenter. And hopefully that's where I've arrived all these years later.
It's a really smart thing for Channel 4 to have done, actually, to get you involved in 2016, because you were all over Channel 4 anyway. So you'd done years on the channel and they just got the rights to show it. And they wanted, you can't just be like, and by the way, Channel 4 now does this mad sport. Have you felt like people have really come with you on that adventure of, oh, come on, this sport is probably quite fun. Let's find out about it together.
Without a doubt. I mean, I did feel a bit pushed back at the start. I remember during the promotion for the first season shown on Channel 4, as you said, back in 2016, I think I made a comment in the press, something like, it's such a drama. It's basically Hollyoaks on wheels. Now, people didn't like that. They didn't like that comment at all. They were like, oh, this idiot entertainment presenter. It's nothing like Hollyoaks. What the hell are you talking about? But, I kept my calm. I was like, okay, I'm aware of that. But at the same time, I'm me, and I have to present in the fashion that I've always presented. I'm not an actor. I'm me. I have to be me on screen. People will either hate it or they will like it, or at least bear it. And I think eventually, a few years down the line, people really got on board with the style in which our show is shot, because it's not gag, gag, gag. We're funny when it's appropriate, and we're serious when it's appropriate. I get these guys are putting their lives on the line. It can't be like stummy, 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 but we do have an irreverent feel to it. And I think the sport, and I'm not saying it's anything to do with me or Channel 4, but the sport has definitely got a lot funnier over the years. I think people are having a bit more of a laugh with it. I always found F1, as soon as I arrived, this is really funny. Why is nobody having a laugh with this? There's a lot of really funny things going on. And I think people have embraced that as the years have gone by. And it's been wonderful to be part of that.
What do you love about Formula One? What are the funny bits? Because I completely agree with you. The whole sport is absurd. And you have to laugh at it because it's mad. What are the things that you first found funny about it?
I think a lot of the drivers take themselves a little too seriously. And I think a lot of the interviews that I'd seen, because I obviously put in a lot of research before I hosted the show, a lot of these interviews are quite worthy and straight. And I get that. But what frustrated me was that you're asking these people quite straight, basic questions about driving a car, or what's your favorite track? And I didn't know anything about the drivers. And that really, really frustrated me. I was like, who are the people behind this car? Behind the wheel of the car. So as soon as I sat down in front of them, I thought, I'm going to have fun in the sense that I'm going to ask them all these weird questions. I think I'm asking Lewis Hamilton, do you think dogs can sense evil?
What did he say? Can dogs sense evil?
Said yes, they absolutely can.
They definitely can.
A bit of a hippie when it comes to that stuff. He believes in UFOs, all these weird things. I asked Valtteri Bottas, does he manscape? And I think, all these ridiculous questions, you learn who the person behind the wheel is, and then you back them more. You're like, I like this guy, he's got a personality. So for me, one of the fun bits is asking these drivers the most ridiculous thing I can ask them. After I've asked them the pertinent questions of the last race or what had just happened in the race, then you can have a bit of fun with them, get to know who they are.
It's been on my mind since you mentioned it, Steve, because I remember seeing the clip, but can't remember Valtteri's answer. And now it's going over and over in my mind in terms of, you asked Valtteri Bottas whether he manscapes.
Yeah.
I can't work out whether he would proudly say, no, I don't, I'll go au naturel, or whether he would go, of course, because he takes quite good care with his appearance now with the moustache. I can't work out which side of the fence I'm on. So for those having the similar internal debate to me, can you provide us with some clarity on the situation?
I can. He manscapes.
Yeah. Okay, good.
He was pretty quick to tell us that as well. I remember his handler at, who was he with at the time? Might have been Williams. Turned to my producer and was like, you need to clear these questions with me next time, please. which we don't, and we never will, because it takes all the spontaneity out of it.
No, I think that's true. And also you've got to remain interested as well. I think that's crucial, because you're on the road as much as all these guys and these teams are as well. Have you found that a challenge, going around the world kind of endlessly? It's important that you have a good gang with you, I suppose.
Yes, a really, really good point. Selfishly, I try to keep it interesting for myself. I don't want it to get stale, which is why I try to challenge the drivers. Because it takes somebody like Valtteri Bottas. I've interviewed this guy, I don't know how many times over the last 9 seasons. But there's no excuse not to take a little minute, in a minute and a half at the end of the interview, to put something a bit fresh and different in there. And my team are always trying to think of ideas to make it, like I said, different, interesting, engaging, and just showing the drivers in a different light, because it's like content. People want to know who these people are who are mad enough to drive these cars at those speeds.
During an interview with George Russell in Monaco, I think it was last year, wasn't it? You predicted that Lewis Hamilton would go to Ferrari, which is crazy, by the way.
Look, if I'm completely honest, yeah, I said that. I predicted Lewis was going to go to Ferrari, but I didn't really. I just wanted to do my silly Enzo Ferrari impression. And Lewis, you're coming to Ferrari? I just wanted to do that to George. So that was just a byproduct, me weirdly getting this this move to Ferrari, right? A good 18 months before, a year before it happened, or maybe even less. But
Well,
yeah, that was just a bit of luck, if I'm completely honest.
Greg does a good Toto Wolff.
Yeah.
So what we could do really with this podcast is we could have Enzo Ferrari talking to Toto Wolff and
Yeah.
sort of negotiating between the two of them.
What kind of system should we put in place to make sure Mr. Hamilton is happy at Ferrari?
This is how we both go, Steve. This is how we get cancelled. The thing we need to do is you need to make sure that there is his own plane for the dog. It's important to have that, and also to make sure that your car isn't a piece of like it is at the moment.
It's very Arsene Wenger, isn't it? It's increasingly Arsene Wenger.
In my head, they're
does
sort
go.
of, they've got a very similar energy though, those two, I would
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
But I'd say Arsene is a bit more,
I
I think that is,
Yeah.
whereas in my head, it's Rainier Wolfcastle from The Simpsons is Toto Wolff.
These are both pretty damn good. I think him and James Allison, when you're talking to that pair of guys, Ferrari, you get the impression, oh, I'm talking to a pair of geniuses here. They're so clever, those guys, and just speaking to them and the way they talk and how inspiring they are. That's another thing which is really amazing about this job, being around these super bright, inspiring people. If I can get a bit wordy for a second, but I never take it for granted. I get some FaceTime with Toto Wolff. He's extraordinary.
I know, I often think that about people in Formula One, like engineers, also. I'm just like, wow, you are very intelligent and very clever and very cool as well.
Well, in terms of that gang, then, who have you got close to? Not just the people that you're on telly with, but who are the people that you would sort of hang out and have a coffee with? Who are the people that help you get through the traveling and all the rest of it, and the mad circus?
Well, it's my team, my Channel 4 team, my Whisper team, that we're like a small family. It's funny because the size of the team has diminished over the years with budget restraints and all the rest of it. I mean, 2016, we're doing a live show. There's like 50 people on site. Now there's like 6 of us, filming the entire weekend. So it's a very, very small team, but they do become family. They're very important to me. We have, especially with a small team, a no policy. If somebody's rocking the boat, they got to go. We can't have any ego there, but he needs to be comfortable. In regards to F1 and the people in the paddock, beyond you might sit down and have a coffee occasionally about organizing a shoot, I have no contact with them at all in a friend kind of way. I don't want to be their friends. I need to ask that question. That most of the time DC will turn to me and go, I'm not asking that. And I'll ask it. I don't give a shit. But I think it's important to keep that distance. So I'm not friends with any of the drivers, any of the team principals, and I have no interest in being friends with them, to be completely honest with you. It's not what the job is. I don't want to be chummy with these guys. It doesn't work like that.
And speaking of the job, Steve, the F1 paddock is a mad place. It's a mad sport with 1 minute you can have ludicrous celebrities walking past you, and then you've got the buzz of the cars. I think a lot of people will be fascinated about doing the job of presenting, of sounding like you vaguely know what you're talking about, whilst all this ridiculous stuff is happening in the background, whilst thinking, well, Christian Horner's coming over in a minute, or I've got to ask David Coulthard this, or David Coulthard's gone off on a ridiculous rant, and you're the sort of thing that's holding it all together. How tricky is it to do the job in the middle of the F1 world?
Well, it's not as tricky as it used to be. I mean, when you first start off and you don't know that much and you get a little bit nervous about asking the wrong question or sounding a bit foolish, you got to be focused. You can't be out with the crew the night before getting smashed, enjoying Budapest, for instance, which a lot of my team will, because, that's their choice. But you got to be sharp. You got to arrive with done all your research that weekend. You got to look at all the information. You can't be, obviously there's going to be surprises, but you just rely on reacting in the moment and just being sharp, being aware of anything that's happening. But beyond keeping your eyes and ears open, there's nothing else to it, really. You just have to live and breathe it when you're there, and then hopefully it'll come to you.
You say there's nothing else to it, but I just wanted to pick up on what you said about not being friends with the people you're interviewing or questioning. But that's also at odds a little bit with how you want to present it with the entertainment side. That's a really difficult thing to nail. I want to have a laugh with you, but I also, don't get this wrong, I will ask you a difficult question. You seem to have managed that very well. It's very difficult like that, isn't it?
But I think these guys are professionals. They're the best at what they do. They respect that I want to be the best at what I do, and that involves asking that question that few others would. So you've got it, but they've come to expect that from you. You know, it's not going to be an easy ride. You know, I've had like crosswords. I had a bit of a moment with Fred Vasseur in Monaco, where he barked at me because he felt I was being negative about Charles Leclerc. You know, this is on camera, and maybe I was because I was pointing out a shocking statistic. And that was my point. Like, well, I think it's an interesting statistic, Brad, but he was quite annoyed by it.
What
But
was the stat?
I think it was something like he's taken 2 wins from 12 pole positions. It was something weird like that. It was. I'm not a big stat guy. They get a bit of numbers. Who gives? But that was a weird one. It was something like that. It was outrageous, which is why I mentioned it. But he wasn't very happy. But again, you know, that's the job. He's not my friend. You know, don't be wrong. I'm polite to him, and you bumped into him in a restaurant in Belgium recently. Had a nice quick chat, but that's that. But these people are not my friends. Why would they want to be friends with me anyway? I'm a bloody presenter. There's nothing I can do for them, essentially. You know what I mean?
Let's talk about you and DC, how you dovetail that, because it must be quite nice to have the heft of a driver next to you when you're dealing with those people, even though he doesn't maybe want to ask the difficult question. He's there as reinforcements, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, David Coulthard's got his fingers in many pies in the paddock, so he doesn't want to endanger those relationships. I completely get it, but he does absolutely legitimize our show. You know, my job is hopefully asking the most pertinent question, but DC's job is explaining what we've just seen and why this call by the stewards is idiotic, why that was the right thing to do. So without the heft of a David Coulthard or a Mark Webber, those who've seen there being a Dunner, you know, 2-time Silverstone winners, 2-time Monaco winners, then it's just me blithering on, pretending like I know anything about Formula One. So they're everything to our show. And quite frankly, without them, I wouldn't host the show because I wouldn't feel comfortable. We need them.
You've done so much, Steve. Like, if you go through your Wikipedia of all the TV shows that you've worked on, like, it's such an array of so many different things. Like, there's something called Sex Box on there. I don't even know what that is, but caught my eye.
I bet you can imagine what it is.
But where does Formula One rank in everything that you've done?
It's top of the tree. It has to be. You know, I've been doing it for 9 seasons. It's definitely the most rewarding thing. It's definitely been the most challenging thing. It continues to challenge me. So it easily eclipses everything else I've done in my career. Plus, you know, I'm really chuffed that I've been diverse enough in my career to become a sports presenter. I never thought that was going to happen. You know, I didn't even, until Jay Hunt rang me that day, I never even considered presenting sports. So I think it's definitely been the thing I'm most proud of in my career, more so than Sex Box.
Well, if we were to bring Sex Box back, I wonder if we could persuade any of the drivers on the grid to take part. Valtteri might be up for it.
Valtteri definitely. He's first name on the team sheet, isn't
Valtteri's well up for it. We've seen him get his arse out for his calendar. He's happily going on Sex Box, I think.
George Russell would run a mile, I reckon. I don't think he'd want to be on Sex Box.
Will you say that? Look at the amount of times he's got his kit off on Instagram.
I actually presented that show Sex Box, which Betty brought up, just before I hosted F1. And I arrived in the paddock, literally in Barcelona 2016. And Christian Horner came across to say hi. He was, new presenter at Channel 4. Nice to meet you, Sex Box.
Oh.
He's never, ever called me Steve. In 9 seasons, he only calls me Sex Box.
And he still calls you Sex Box to this day?
To this day, which is bold. Yeah, it was a hell of a show. I'm glad I did it.
Well, actually, you really should be calling it Sex Box. Actually,
Yeah,
that's what it should have been. Nice. That's what it should have been. Thank you. You're welcome.
Very good.
We talked about you traveling around the world many times. 9 times, actually, to be precise, I guess. You've managed to, while you're on the road, you clearly prepare and have a lot of stuff to do, and it's busy weekends, but you have a lot of time on planes, hotel lobbies, airport lounges. You also have been writing books, Steve, the last few years, which I find really, really brilliant and really interesting. Tell us about your novels.
Yeah, I think it was 6 years ago. I had an idea for a novel, and my wife encouraged me to write a book. And then it occurred to me that I'm in perfect situation for having oodles and oodles of time because, as you said, long haul flights, lonely hotel rooms. As I mentioned earlier, got to be professional. It's just me sitting in my hotel room on my own, Friday night, Saturday night, Thursday night as well. And I thought, well, why not fill this time with trying to write a novel? I remember being on a flight to Australia and I started writing my first novel, Call Time, on my iPhone. But okay, let's give it a go. And it just built from there. And I kept writing and then rewriting, and then Penguin got involved, and those lunatics decided to publish it. And then they were like, you got anything else up your sleeve? And I was actually writing a book called Terminally Kill at the time, about a group of murderous chemo patients. And then they read it. They're like, we'd like to publish this as well. And that came out last month. So yeah, I've been filling a lot of my time in F1 with writing, and it's worked out perfect. Another gift F1 has given me, the gift of time.
Me and Betty are in our book era, Steve. We were discussing this before we started recording. I was off work last week because summer break. Read 4 books in a week, Steve.
Ooh.
Blew through them. 4 in a week.
Was one of them Terminally Kill?
One of them, no, it wasn't, but it will be now, and it genuinely will be. That's going to go on the list. Also, I need to read Bernie Collins's book, and they sound slightly different, but hey, it's on the list.
Please check it out. I'll hopefully enjoy it. It's a little edgy, a little bit dark. But
we love a bit of edge over here.
We don't mind edgy and dark.
Check it out, please. Terminally Kill, it's called.
You're a risky man. You're an edgy man. You're not afraid to tell truth to the billionaire drivers who all live in tax havens.
Or ask them about their pubes.
Or ask them about their exactly. Ask them about their bank balance or their pubes. Steve, it's been so nice to have you on the podcast. Thank you for your time. What's I guess you're Zandvoorting next week. You've got a little bit more time off. What is your summer break at the minute? What are you doing?
Yeah, I'm spending time with some friends at the weekend. Actually, this week has been filled with meetings in London, so I'm squeezing in a couple of meetings, and then weekend with my friends, more meetings next week, and then straight down to Zandvoort on the Wednesday. So pretty busy break, to be honest.
What's the Zandvoort circuit like in terms of presenting and stuff? Is that one you look forward to? Yeah,
the paddocks spread out in an annoying kind of 2-tiered way, which is can be frustrating if you got to get from one hospitality suite to the next. You've got to go via like a million punters, so you're ducking and diving and bobbing and weaving to try and get through them to get to the point where you need to be to start filming. So that can be a little bit frustrating. But generally, you're next to the beach. It's amazing. I tell you, my only complaint with F1 is, and Zandvoort is definitely one of these places. F1 has made me hate sunshine. Everywhere we go seems to be nuclear hot. And then when your director is saying, Steve, can you stand in like 45-degree direct sunlight for the next 4 hours, please? I honestly like grey skies and rain nowadays.
No.
I'm done. I know that sounds insane, Betty, but
no, it does not sound insane. Steve, last year I did the BBC's 5 Live coverage, and we realised that my signal went as soon as I was in shelter. And when you've done 3 hours non-stop of standing, and you can't go under that umbrella, Christian, because we'll lose signal. So, I'll bake then. I'll just stand and fry. And one of the team at Williams were so worried about me, they gave me a hat. They were like, no, you can't. So I literally got mothered by one of the teams being like, he's going to just collapse if we don't give him a hat and some water. So I get that.
And you can't wear any sunglasses either, because, you got to connect with the viewer.
TV.
I see your eyes. What are you hiding?
That is true.
Fear. Stone cold fear. Well, Steve, we wish you a rainy, cloudy weekend in Zandvoort.
Thank you.
And I hope the sun doesn't shine ever again for you. But we have thoroughly enjoyed having you on the Fast and the Curious, and good luck for the second half of the season. Steve will be heading out to Zandvoort to do more of the Channel 4's Formula 1 coverage, which, of course, you can catch up with on Channel 4, or it's also on the internet. And Steve's books are out as well. Steve, thanks so much. We'll speak to you soon.
Thank you, guys.
Well, what a lovely episode. What a lovely man Steve Jones is. We had our suspicions he'd be nice, and they were right. He was nice.
I had suspicions he'd be horrible. Turns out it's completely wrong.
Well, really, really, really handsome people you can't trust people that are that handsome naturally. You got to double check. Before we go, hey, this is an opportunity to remind you. I'm talking to you, Christian, and you, Betty, but mainly the listenership.
Sure.
A chance to remind you of how NordVPN can come in handy for sports fans all over the world. You famously have just been at the Olympics, Betty. Was it useful while you were there?
Greg, what a question. Of course I used NordVPN. I was watching all sorts on my iPad in the hotel. Everyone was very jealous of me because they were like, how are you doing that? I was like, guys, it's NordVPN. If you don't have it, you need to get with it and you need to get it because it's a lifesaver.
Why was people not listening to the Fast and the Curious? Because if they listen to Fast and the Curious, they'd know how obsessed we are with NordVPN, and not just because they're keeping the lights on.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think that.
Like that, we actually do like it as well as the aforementioned lights being on.
Would you like to know something completely true, by the way?
Yeah.
I installed an update before this very podcast on my generic computer that I use to record, because I'm about to head out to Zandvoort, and whenever you're out of the country, it's just a dream, absolute dream. In fact, if anyone else is like me, heading out the country to a Formula One race, or you don't have to use it for Formula One races. You can use it for whatever reason you might be out of the country. You might be going to visit an auntie, for example. You can change it. You can also, even if you're staying in the country, you might be trying to book a flight to go and see that auntie, and you can change your virtual location, because some flights and hotel fees, depending on where you book from, change. So sorting all the logistics to go and see your auntie Deborah can help you spend less.
Big Deborah.
How do you know my auntie Deborah's big?
Well, I don't know. I'm just saying Big Deborah as a way of like, it's a term of endearment.
Oh, like, but yeah, endearing, not necessarily referring to her size.
No.
Oh, she doesn't exist. I haven't got an auntie Deborah.
Right. Okay.
No.
You can do all of that safe in the knowledge that NordVPN is protecting all of your data while traveling and using public Wi-Fi wherever you are in the world. To get the best discount off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/TFATC. That's to fast and to curious. Our link will also give you 4 extra months on the 2-year plan. And hey, there's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the description of this episode. We'll be back before the Dutch Grand Prix. Leah Block said she's around, so we're going to have a catch-up with her. As always, send any questions or comments ahead of the race to @FastCuriousPod. Goodbye, bye.
I'm off to ring my auntie Deborah.